I want to be worth $1 million. Not someday. Not in some vague, hopeful, distant version of the future where everything magically works out. I mean specifically, deliberately, with a real number and a real plan and a real timeline. And I am starting that journey right now, on camera, with full transparency, because the only way this series means anything is if I show you exactly where I am starting from, including the embarrassing parts. So before I say anything else, let me tell you where I actually stand today. My net worth right now is not impressive. It is not where I imagined I would be at this age. I have some savings. I have some investments. I also have debt. And when I added everything up, assets minus liabilities, the way you are actually supposed to calculate net worth, the number I got back was not what I hoped it would be. I am not going to pretend otherwise. That number is my starting line. And this series is going to track every step between that number and $1 million. I decided to document this publicly for one reason: accountability. When something only exists in your head, it is easy to abandon it when things get hard quietly. When it is on camera, with people watching, the standard changes. I need that. And honestly, I think a lot of people watching this need to see someone do this in real time. Not a person who already made it looking back, but someone in the middle of it, figuring it out, making decisions and living with the consequences. So this is episode 1. This is where it starts. The first thing I had to do, the thing I had been avoiding for longer than I want to admit, was sit down and get completely honest about my financial picture. Not estimated, not roughly calculated in my head while I was trying to fall asleep. I mean written down, line by line, with exact numbers. Income, expenses, debt, savings, investments, everything on one page, visible at the same time. I put it off for months. I kept telling myself I would do it when things settled down a little, when I had more to show, when the numbers were less uncomfortable to look at. That is not a logical reason to delay. That is fear dressed up as patience. Because the longer you avoid looking at your real financial situation, the longer you stay stuck inside it without even knowing how stuck you are. When I finally did it, a few things became very clear very fast. The first thing I noticed was how much I was spending on things I could not specifically remember buying. Small charges, subscriptions I had forgotten about, meals out that had become so routine I stopped thinking of them as choices and started thinking of them as just the cost of being alive. When I totaled those categories up, the number was significantly higher than I had estimated. Not devastatingly high, just quietly, consistently higher than it needed to be. That gap, between what I thought I was spending and what I was actually spending, had been silently working against me for years. The second thing I noticed was that my savings were not growing the way I thought they were. I had been contributing to an investment account for a while, but the contributions were inconsistent. Some months I put in a solid amount. Other months, something came up and I told myself I would double it next month to make up for it. I rarely did. What I had was not a savings strategy. It was savings when convenient, which is basically the same as no strategy at all. This is the pattern I had to break before anything else. Because here is what I now understand about building wealth, and I mean genuinely understand, not just know as a concept. The system has to be built so that the right behavior is automatic and the wrong behavior requires extra effort. Not the other way around. What I mean by that is this. For most of my adult life, my financial default was spend first, save what is left. Every paycheck came in, went into my account, and I lived my life. Whatever was left at the end of the month, sometimes something, sometimes nothing, was what I saved. That is the wrong sequence. That sequence will produce nothing no matter how much your income grows, because lifestyle has a way of expanding to match every dollar available to it. I have lived that. I watched my spending grow in perfect proportion to every raise I received. More income, same amount left over. The treadmill speeds up but you stay in the same place. The only thing that breaks that cycle is changing the order. Take the savings and investments out first. Before the spending decisions start. Before the month begins and the little costs accumulate. Automate it so there is nothing to decide in the moment, because in the moment decisions almost always favor spending over saving. Then live on what remains. That structural change sounds small. It is not small. It is the single most important mechanical shift in personal finance. And it is the first real change I am making as part of this journey. Now, here is the part one want to be honest about, because most people who create finance content skip over this completely. The moment I started taking this seriously, The moment the savings account balance started climbing and the investment contributions became consistent, I felt genuinely uncomfortable. Not in a bad way. In a strange, unfamiliar way. Like I was operating at a level one did not fully trust myself to maintain. And that feeling almost derailed me. There was a week where I found reasons to justify a large unnecessary purchase right when my savings had hit a new high. There was a moment where I caught myself mentally calculating how much I could pull out of my investment account without it being a big deal. Nothing catastrophic, just small, quiet impulses in the direction of undoing what I had built. I think this happens to a lot of people and nobody names it clearly. It is a financial identity problem. Somewhere in your subconscious, you have a picture of yourself with money, and if your actual bank balance starts to exceed that picture, your behavior will unconsciously correct back toward what feels familiar. The wealth-building behavior starts to feel unnatural. The spending behavior feels like relief. The only way past that is to consciously update the picture. To start thinking of yourself as someone who holds money, invests money, lets money grow. Not as an aspiration, as a present tense identity. I am building this. This is what I do now. Not what I am trying to do. What I do. That shift is still in progress for me. I will not pretend I have fully made it. But I am aware of it now in a way I was not before, and awareness is where change starts. Let me talk about the actual math for a minute, because this is where the journey becomes genuinely motivating once you understand it. A person who invests $500 per month into a broad index fund, something that tracks the overall stock market and historically returns around 10% per year on average, will cross $1 million in approximately 30 years. That is $500 per month. Not a massive sum. Not the kind of money that requires an elite income. The number that actually determines the outcome is not how much you earn. It is how consistently you invest and how early you start. I am not starting at zero. But I am not starting far ahead either. The calculation I ran on my own timeline, based on my starting net worth and my planned monthly contribution, gives me a target window. That window is what this series is going to track. Episode by episode, month by month, number by number, I will share the portfolio updates. I will share the mistakes. I will share the months where nothing seems to be moving and the discipline is harder to maintain. I will share the strategy shifts when they happen and the reasoning behind them. This is not a highlight reel. It is the full picture. Because here is what I have come to believe about money and the people who build real wealth over time. They are not special. They do not have a gift. They are not operating with information that is hidden from everyone else. They made a decision, usually a quiet, private, completely unremarkable decision, to stop reacting to money and start directing it. They built a structure, they maintained it consistently, and they gave time the space to do what money alone cannot do. I made that decision, not dramatically, not with a grand announcement. Just a decision, made sitting at a desk with a spreadsheet open, looking at numbers I had been avoiding and choosing to stop avoiding them. This is the start of the road. $1 million. Real number. Real plan. Real timeline. I will see you in episode 2.